I sometimes think that as filmmakers, yes, our audience is fickle, but that's the nature of an audience. But I sometimes feel like we don't respect it enough. Especially black audiences, we don't see that they're sophisticated enough. Snappy, these guys make like the Matrix work.
Yeah, it's true.
They put up numbers for the Matrix, they put up numbers for the district. You call any movie, black people go watch it and put up numbers for it.
That's true.
So how do we not respect them as an audience?
Welcome to the Film Biz Show, a show where we talk about the business of film, both locally and internationally. My name is Marcus Mabusela. Now, we're very, very excited for today's guest because his CV is longer than both my arms. Trust me, it's long, guys. Name a production company, he's probably worked with them. He's a DP, a producer, and a director. He's worked on TV shows, films, music videos, commercials. Some of the projects he's worked on are Intersections, Guyani, Emoyeni, Hope, Made in Africa. But truly, he's here to disrupt the industry, and that's what we love. Guys, please help me to welcome my brother, Pheello PJ Makosholo. Welcome, King. Welcome, brother. The champ is here. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Lovely.
Sure, bro. Man, thank you for joining us on this, what do we call it? Spring Joburg evening. You said you were feeling cold earlier. I'm like, that. The years have gone by, bro.
Dude, I want to get my push around.
I know that's sprinkles of wisdom.
I don't buy into that.
Yes, sir.
It's been sold so many ways.
But please, if you can, man, just give our guests just a brief background on where you come from, the kind of background that you're coming from.
So I'm originally from Lesotho.
Yes, sir.
Raised in Maseru. Then I spent some of my formative years in Bloemfontein and Pretoria. And then I've always loved storytelling. I don't know, I love basketball when I was growing up. So I played a lot of that. And I got fortunate along the way that I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
Right. And then I had a teacher who saw that I was one of those kids, so he punished me. And he made me do backstage on this production that the teachers were doing as a fundraiser. And I loved it.
Thank you.
And I hated it because I was good at it.
You were great at it, yeah.
And then homie saw that as well. And it was interesting because then from that point on, he just waited for me to mess up again. And then he threw me back up there. And that just became something. And the idea of making things and creating things was always there. If you grow up in Lesotho with no TV, storytelling becomes part of your natural kind of thing. If you can imagine, you guys have got TVs now. My parents only really got our first TV when they were, I'd say I was about 12.
Sure.
Right? That was a fascinating moment, man. I used to come home to watch that color circle thing.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they used to have brain teasers. And I don't understand what a brain teaser is up until now. Black boys were traumatized by that word. And I used to sit there and watch and I'd be like, what the hell are these things? But I love what's going on here.
But I don't think our younger viewers know what we're talking about, right? It just described it. It was a circle that had colors in there. Yeah. And it was right, but basically to say TV is not on yet.
Yeah, it was a signal, but it was a test signal. Yeah. So before there was 24-hour television, right, we used to literally have maybe 8 hours of the stuff. And at that time, we used to get in, Lesotho didn't have a TV station of its own, so we used to get the South African apartheid signal. So there was TV 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. And TV 2 and 3 used to share a signal, and then you'd watch that, right? And TV 4 would come on late at night, if I remember correctly. But, it was interesting because it was an extension of my grandmother in a sense. Growing up, we used to go to, so both my grandmothers, my paternal and my maternal grandmother, were storytellers.
Yes, sir.
So ke hotse ka ditshomo nkgono o na tla dula nkgono mama happy o na tla re dudisa ha ka te wa qala ba rene re bo wa o pheta ditshomo mo then you fall asleep, right?
But to our to our viewers and listeners who aren't Basotho, ditshomo ke eng in that?
Ditshomo is like stories, fables, whatever. If you're Zulu, you say Kwasoga Sogela, I think, right? And if you're Caucasian, you'd say once upon a time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That was my upbringing. And Nkhono Malifu from my mom's side, she used to live up in the mountains, right? So we'd be dumped there, as like most kids were back then. And late at night, we'd have a fire in her hut. And it was the only way to keep warm, right? So you'd be sitting in the smoky hut, and it was like a movie experience in a sense, but it wasn't. But so so basically what would happen is that, like, if you ever grew up black, you used to understand what cobra polish did, right? And then once the cobra was done, they would take the lid, they would take some wire, turn it into a pan of sorts, right? Then what you do is that, like, because like you're coming, it's June, July, obviously. So the harvest is over. So there's excess maize for some. So what they do is that, like, you soak your millie meal for chicken feed, right? Because chickens, like, they can't like digest it like that one. And then some of it you take, right? And then you put it into this thing. And then you've got your fire going inside. So you slowly roast it as you're eating. And then while you're doing that, your grandmother's telling you stories. Yeah,
I know them. Victoria, shout out. Soshanguve. Hamanskra.
You don't think Dimu said Tselani Dibra?
Bosso. Tselani. Yeah,
no, but that was the upbringing, man. So the grandmom would tell me that, and then both of them had a great sense of humor. And I think I took that because I don't know how to really be serious. But that was me storytelling and understanding storytelling from that point. But also, what it did for me later in life, it gave me a great deep dissatisfaction for the kind of storytelling that's out there, because I think it gave me a different understanding of storytelling. Yeah. Because Western storytelling is super linear, right? You start here, you end there, which is dope. But if you go into any other, it's like going to be, so there was Marcus. Marcus was a boy who, like, those boys that will go back, but then you need to have this so that you can understand why Marcus would only wear white shoes and why when his shoes got dirty, and then the story, so forth. Yeah. So we'd inform on it. So it was, and because you had to be entertaining, you had to paint colors with your words, right? You had to make the pictures come up with your words. And since then, it's like linear kind of storytelling has always been tricky, because I think I understand that the story is a tricky thing. It's personal.
PJ, one of the things that, especially on the show, we've been talking about is the lack of development in some of our stories. Where it's just a script writer puts together a script, but there isn't much background. There isn't much foundational work that's done on the characters, on the situations and circumstances, and why B happens is because A was triggered by and from what you're saying is, these folk tales that we had a sense of that because they weren't in a linear form. Do you think perhaps maybe as young African creatives as well, we are kind of adapting to a new way of storytelling, which is a linear, as opposed to, the way in which we have traditionally been telling stories, which is non-linear and more well-rounded?
It's a tricky one, man, because, you're talking about the effects of capitalism on one.
Yes, sir.
In one side, which is that, like, we have to be economically viable as a storyteller, filmmaker, right? Yeah. So that means, Snap, you can't go into the whoever channel and say, hey, I want to do this, and I want to do it like this.
Yes.
You have to do it within the confines that they give you. Over and above that, if then you're in, like, you guys call yourself film biz, right? I've got a very good friend who always tells me it's called showbiz for a reason.
Yes, sir.
You can't have the show without the biz, and you can't have the biz without the show.
So true.
Right? So the problem is that, like, if you're doing the biz all the time, then the show has to conform to what is going to grow the biz. Right? If you're only doing the show, you don't have much biz. Yeah. So where it comes in is that, like, I just had, for me in the past year, I had a little film I made, and
always so humble. A little film I made.
Next
thing is getting an Oscar. Hey!
What? No, man. So, I mean, I remember my commissioning editor and producer speaking about, like, hey, you don't see this guy get from here to here. And then I'm like, but do you need to, though? Do you need to physically see him in the Nigerian sense of, you see a car coming from there, then it drives, then it goes through the gate, and then some guy takes 3 hours to open. Do we need to see that? We know that he's going there. And does the journey have any bearing on what has to happen in the story? No. So do we need it? But because of the kind of storytelling that we've, like, confined ourselves to in order to make the biz work, you need to, and we assume that the audience is used to that. I sometimes think that as filmmakers, yes, our audience is fickle, but that's the nature of an audience. But I sometimes feel like we don't respect it enough. I feel like sometimes, especially Black audiences, we don't see that they're sophisticated enough. Snappy, these guys make, like, the Matrix work.
Yeah, it's true.
They put up numbers for the Matrix. They put up numbers for the District. You call any movie, Black people go watch it and put up numbers for it.
That's true.
So how do we not respect them as an audience?
So you're saying you're finding that the Black market does not respect the craft in itself, or?
No, I'm saying the Black audience is not respected.
Okay, is not respected.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, I was on set, right, working on a project, and it was a telenovela. And I remember there was a continuity issue. And the director, you know, the lady said, no, we've got a problem. It's not this. It's like, don't worry. You know, our audience doesn't care. I was blown away. This guy's saying it doesn't matter. You know, we know our audience. They're tired. They just came back from work. They don't care whether he was wearing a white scarf or a black scarf. You know, they just want to know if, you know, ABC is good. You know, that's it. So I understand what you're saying.
But it's tricky for me because do the same thing on SABC3 and then you've got everybody jumping out the window to talk about, like, how do you put out some low quality crap like that?
Yes, sir.
And then my question becomes, but you're not selling a different thing. It's the same thing being done. It's just that one audience just seems to deserve more respect. I mean, to the point where there's a channel on the SABC bouquet that shouldn't be there. It's dead. But for the sake of old apartheid thinking, we're keeping this thing alive. Why? You know what I mean? But those are other deeper questions that, like, other people. But I'm saying, as an audience, I don't think we respect the Black audience enough. I don't think we see how sophisticated it is. I don't think we are willing to really, truly give it what it does. And the things that do well, that give it what it is, what we call clever Blacks are like, oh, that's trash. Really? Then tell me why Moja Love does so well.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I mean, another home used to say, yeah, you know, they say that you have to be a successful filmmaker. Yeah, great. So if you want to be successful, make a Lee and Schuster movie. Those are the highest grossing films in the country.
That's true.
But nobody wants to do that. Make a Generations. That's the highest grossing thing. That was the highest grossing thing at the time. But nobody wants to do that. Why? Oh, no, it's garbage. But we said we want to make money. So how come we're not emulating the things that make money?
But here's the question again. It's always that. Yes, then it is showbiz, you know, art and capital working hand in hand. But now there comes a time where everyone has a story to tell. Like when I think of the hood I'm from, I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about the culture in which brought me and brought, you know, up the men that I looked up to, my older brothers. When I think of TKZ, I'm extremely nostalgic and passionate about that movement. But sometimes I feel like it does not relate, you know. Our creatives are kind of boxed into a certain mode of creating that does not always reflect the aspirations on the ground. How do we work with that? Many people are not happy with the stuff they're seeing, basically. How do we work with that? How do we kind of introduce that? And your approach, how would that be?
I think it's harder in this country
to
do work like that. For various reasons, the most one being that, like, the way that the money moves does not allow us to do that. The money moves funny, and where the money is flowing, the people want returns because it's a business and it's fair, right? So it's nice to make a movie about your little hood and people crying or whatever, but who cares about that film? Who wants to watch it, right? So it gets lost, right? Then it beggars the question, how come people from your hood don't make a film for people in your hood and leave it?
Yeah.
I mean, two things.
Yeah.
I got a chance to work on Ozalo.
Yes, sir.
And I find out that one of my cameramen is the dude that made Umlazi Gangsters. Don't know if you've ever seen that film.
No, it's an indie film.
That was one of the first films by a black dude from a hood, knows nothing, and says, I'm going to make a film and tell people a story about me and where I'm from. And he made this film. It was terrible. I remember he had to go to... When digital film was still owned by Frank and it was still out in Bryanston, right?
Yeah.
Dude is out there trying to get this shit digitized, right? and then I remember there was a homie, a white homie there that used to work. I won't mention his name. And homie's like, you gotta see the effects on this. They're so whack. And I looked at it and they were whack. Oh my word. But I sat there and I'm like, wait a second, this dude made a film. This dude went and made a film about his world and the thing. And I got to meet him and I was like, dude, thank you. You know, you made it possible. You said it's possible. Because it's sort of like the Nollywood model of well, if you're not going to let me show who I am, then I'll show you who I am, whether you like it. So if you're not going to make space, I'm going to find a big knife and I'm going to cut myself a little section. And then I'll make myself a little space. I will build my own table, in other words. And I love that. And I wonder why we're not sitting on that as a model. Reason why is that I don't think that everything has to be for everybody. I don't think so. I don't think I have to make a movie that has to become a hit. That's an Achilles heel. I would never want to have to deal with the pressure of making something that everybody's gonna like. Hell, nobody likes me. You know? Not everybody will like me.
I like you, bud. You're a good guy, PJ.
Yeah, but you're getting paid for it. But you know, nobody can be liked by everybody, not everything liked. So why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Secondly, why do you need to sell to everybody when you have to make sure that the people in around you are buying? Take yourself as a vendor. A guy that sells, take a random thing, I'm a scopas on the side of the road. He doesn't care if somebody in Bryanston knows that he's doing it. He needs to know that everybody within this 3-kilometer radius is going to pass by and buy one.
So true.
And that's how he lives. We do not take that model on. So what happens then, instead of localizing, we are trying to win everything. We're taking a shotgun approach. And we're losing.
Sorry to interject, brother, because I might lose this trail of thought because you're touching on a very important, point. Would you say then globalization is the enemy of, an identity, a specific identity, and being able to kind of identify your own market? Like everyone's trying to do what pop culture is doing. You're forgetting, to serve where you come from. Authentically.
There's another word I hate authenticity. But nah, man. I'm actually, I think I can come off a little bit hard. No, there's space in the sun for everybody.
Wonderful.
There's tons of space for everybody. There's tons of space for people. Dude, there's a million Justin Biebers out there.
Yes, sir.
Right? Great. But you need somebody out here who make Amapiano for the guys in Pretoria, who played in Joburg, who played for everybody else, and then you've got what you've got worldwide. You're from Pretoria. You know a lot of the music that we listen to starts there. Yeah. It'll be people playing it locally in Mamelodi, locally in Soshanguve, and then everybody else buys into it.
That's it.
I'll give you a simple example. I remember the film The Artist when it won an award.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I'm like, wait a second, this is the most typically French film that could ever be made.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody's like, yeah, we need to make films like The Art, I'm like, yo, do you think that guy had me in mind when he made that film?
No.
Nah. He didn't even want me to exist. That dude thought about the 20 Frenchmen who are into this, and he made it for them. We jumped onto it.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, I don't care about local things, whatever. It's international things, I mean. Because You catch on if you need to catch on.
That's
if you
true.
don't, we don't. And it's even easier now because we live in a world where the internet is here.
It's true.
And our identities are a currency that we're not exploiting enough. Secondly, I said 2 parts, right? The second part for me is that my European friends, like, they've got like access to like art funds that literally allow them to make films so that they don't piss the government off and so that they provide them whatever the reasoning is, like, to participate in a semi-socialist system, right? So they get to make films for the sake of making a film. They get to explore an idea. They get to do whatever, right? What happens with that film? Yeah, it's great. It'll go around film festivals. They'll travel the world for a couple. But they've got the chance. They don't have to worry about what they have to do next because they will go back and make another film. We have to make the thing, CVs or whatever, and it has to make money. Otherwise, you're not making another one. So I don't know if any of you got kids, but how do with kids that they've got to make mistakes in order for them to learn.
Oh, yeah.
Yet we're not being allowed to make mistakes. We're expected to like lay perfect eggs each time. How? How does that even begin to make sense? And then you've got like a funding system that like is determined to live like in a capitalist model, which does not work. It's determined to like also kind of like mold films within like this kind of structure, which I feel is not working, right? But these are my thoughts, right? So I sit there and I'm like, but then, so how are we going to have like a successful industry? Shit, we can't even get a guy in Soshanguve to watch one film made by a guy in Soshanguve, if there's a guy. And yet you want the French to come in. Why?
But I mean, in the European context, the government can keep feeding them and feeding them and feeding them. Whether the music makes €1, €1, or 100 million euros, it doesn't really matter. But with us, the current funding model is also not sustainable in the long run because there isn't enough to go around. The kind of money we get, the grants that you get for these films, are quite small. And we're used to making a meal out of crumbs, but also that meal is not sustainable for the next day. And, I find that most film directors always have a begging bowl and saying, can I get money for my next one? How do you think, especially the guys on the ground, the guy in Tembisa, the guy in Sosha, how do you think they can break that mold and at least create a machinery for themselves and their teams, to have a sustainable business?
I don't know. I don't know the answer. However, I'll rewind it. For me, like let me not rewind it, screw that. Like we forgot about the other thing so we can move on. Bro, in my travels when I was in Mozambique and in Ghana,
yes,
in Mozambique, you used to find, and that was weird, man. I was shooting this Omo thing with like Stuart Sukuma. He's kind of cool. That one was like this time. As we're driving, I keep finding these weird little huts, bro. Every single village has a hut. And there's an old man sitting just collecting coins. Couldn't get it. Most pathetic village, but it had that. I stopped one day while I'm looking for beers, because I do a little bit of that. As I'm going in, find beer, then I'm like, I'm gonna peep. So I'm with Stuart, so I can get away with anything at this point. I go in and I have a peep, and I'm like, what? Wagwan? There's a TV with a DVD player inside, right? This homie's charging people 10 minutes to go in and watch a DVD movie. 10 minutes, divide that by 3. That's like what, 3 rand? 1 rand, something like that. Right?
Yeah.
That's a distribution system if you put out enough DVDs.
Straight up.
Right? And you're giving money. So the dude buys the DVD for like, say, 30 minutes, 100 minutes. You make your money back up because you've got a TV and a DVD and you pack them up. To make the theater is laka and grass. So that's one. Then I traveled to Ghana. And then I went to a film market in Tamale. Yeah. So I discovered at that time there's like 3 centers of film. There's Accra itself, which like does like this really beautiful high-end conventional filmmaking. Then there's Koforidua, which does this old kind of, at that time. I stand to be corrected, but that's what I saw at that time. They even had Terminator, Bronga 4. It was the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was beautiful. And then you go to Tamale, which is a bit more Hausa, a bit more Muslim, and they make like these things with witches and whatever.
My goodness.
3 centers of film, all on DVD, right? None of them reliant on anybody. Like I watched this film about like Nigerian distribution models. Like these dudes, literally, you make the film. I go up to you and I say, Marcus, I've got a great film. Would you like the master? You say, how much does the master cost me? Film cost me 80,000 rand to make. So I'll sell it to you for 95 so I can at least make a bit of sense out of it. You say, shut up, PJ, you're talking crap. I'll give you 19. Right? You take it. I'm a filmmaker, right? So I've sold a film. Now I can go make another film and I've got 10 extra. Then the guy who is in the business of selling films goes out and sells films. And I don't have to worry. Right? That's an industry.
A whole ecosystem.
All by itself, surviving by itself. Me and my homie Carl, if you guys ever look out on the internet, like there's a film called Insured, made in Lesotho. Okay. We tried something and it was another thing that was very eye-opening. After we made the film, it's a 5-minute short film. We wanted to enter my road reel, right? So we made it, and there was this place we used to go get quartz, and it's not far from his joint. PTC. If you know, you know.
Word in the street. Yeah.
So as we would roll up there, there was a dude that used to buy guys from Loose Draw. Fix the absence. As you're coughing your lungs out there, quiet to wash it down. I'll escape from Ghana. So as you're doing that, dude is like, what are you guys doing here? Like, you guys are not supposed to be here. The hell? No, we're making a film. Really? What film? We're showing. Oh, great. Oh, man, I'd love to show my friends. We send it to them on WhatsApp. So then I'm like, okay, Carl, let's find 3 people right here and let's send them these films. This is before WhatsApp got too clever. But we did that and it was like, wait, that's a distribution model. Right? How do I sell it through WhatsApp? It's short enough. People are always on their phones. Why aren't I selling this film there?
Yeah. But PJ, I hear what you're saying, bro. And I respect that. And I think this conversation would have been much more relevant if it was the early 2000s, late 90s. But now with all these streaming companies coming on board, social media companies coming on board, basically undercutting the content creator. They're saying, we got the market, we set the price, if you're going to get anything at all. In this climate, then how does, a Black young South African, and obviously, this show, it touches on every demographic, but we want to just specifically, in particular, because that market there's so much potential, but there's no room to breathe for the young content creator who finds himself in that space.
Okay, let me put it this way. How many films or how much content on Netflix is paid for by the actual person that did it? So we haven't really transformed from our traditional models, have we?
Yes, sir.
So what are we hoping is going to change? Then I'm going to circle back to what I was saying earlier. My second point earlier was that we are in a cultural practice. I find it curious that in South Africa or in Africa, we like to put value on cultural practice. And we forget about COVID. And I'll tell you why I bring COVID up as an thing. All of y'all were stuck in your homes. Apart from your hand, you didn't have shit to do.
That means like washing the dishes.
That is it.
In the garden.
Wax on, wax off. Right?
Yeah, brother.
You didn't have shit to do. Culture kept you alive. culture as expressed in film, culture as expressed in music, culture as expressed in newspapers, culture as expressed in whatever, through the internet, through the TV, however. We cultural practitioners, not just artists, cultural practitioners, kept y'all alive. We don't have a value still? So then let's go back and see. So they're saying that like there's not enough money to go around. Are we saying that there's no value in what we do? We're archivists. We're archaeologists. We're thought leaders. We're psychologists. We're newspapers.
We're philosophers.
Yet we have no relevance within common society except for a thank you. Even our NAC couldn't even give us money. I know people, I can tell you that I know for sure that a lot of the people that got their money from the NAC had to pay somebody to get it.
Well, I want to state it categorically. I paid nobody to get my money from the NAC.
No, but I know a lot of people at that time. I can tell you, like that's why the people was sitting there lining up and making a hullabaloo.
Yes, brother.
Because so up till now, not even our government can sit there and say, yes, they did the job, but they don't deserve our gratitude. They don't deserve our money. Then we go back to the interesting place where 300 years from now, some hotep is going to get up in his thing and say, Africans have to preserve the history and whatever. We have to be doing that now. And how, if like, we are not seeing, because like, you know, if you watch like, I mean, Budi Golong, if you find it on the internet, if you watch it, it tells you of a time. Yes, it might not be historically 100%, but everything about it, like the thought of it, tells you about the thinking of a people at a time and how, and a reflection of a people at a time. How is that not archiving? How is that not historical practice?
Now, in terms of representation of culture, representation of languages, which you can see are slowly kind of fading out, especially when you look at, you know, most middle-class families, kids don't get as much interaction with their mother tongues. You're saying this archiving, this personal archiving of our cultural experiences will at least give, you know, life to the memories, you know, of, you know, our culture and where we come from for our kids. Because, you know, I find now my little boy is very much interested in acting, even though he's 5 years old. And his acting coaches spoke to me the one day. They said, look, we think he's a great boy, but the thing is you have to teach him his mother tongue. Because if you want him to be a performer, he's got to be able to reflect, you know, a child of his age. And a child of his age is not be talking English. So, you know, I'm just saying...
Which child?
Which child?
From where?
From where? But then it does also just kind of limit him to playing the suburban child.
It's fine. He's a reflection of his times. How is he not? He is living that right now. How is he not a reflection of his times? That's one argument. Second argument is that we forget that there's an ebb and flow in everything. We go here, then we'll find, we lose every single language. Actually, I listened to a very interesting Guardian thing about English. Is English losing itself, whatever? And then it made me reflect on like the Afrikaans thing. Oh no, the Afrikaans language is being slowly strangled out. No, it's not. Our languages are not being strangled out. Our kids are just not interested in it. Because the things that they need culturally are coming in English. Are we creating content that they can engage in on mother tongue? No. So why are we crying? Like, we need to stop reflecting on dumb shit. Because really, we've got a hands-off approach on everything, and then yet we're willing to complain.
That's so true.
There's a thing, you know, it's like, you know, you'll sweep only your front yard. And you don't care about my Kelwai. You don't care about the road, but your front yard is clean. Every time you come back from home, why do I live in such a dirty neighborhood? Really? Have you fostered cleanliness in the space? Have you talked to people about cleanliness in this space? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So you live in this little silo. We live in these little imaginary spaces, and we never ever consider what they mean within a greater context.
Kind of reminds me, I mean, I was, we were at a conference, it's sort of like a seminar, and media personality JJ Dawani was telling at the University of Limpopo, telling these young kids, and the kids were like, what do you mean? And he says, you have to be an activist. And the kids were like, no, but what if I don't like politics? And he's like, no, it's got nothing to do with politics. You just have to be active. Where can I place myself and make some form of change? Whether it's being a part of a soccer team and making sure that, we get good kids, but be active. And that's what you're saying.
Be active.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I had to pull back because, my blood pressure wasn't doing well.
No,
I mean, for real, like I had to, like last year I had to go onto, like some medication to regulate that shit.
Okay.
And it wasn't nice.
I am so sorry about that, bro.
Nah, bro, it's life. I lived unhealthy, bro. I did it to myself, Yeah. But it's hard, However, what I used to do is that, like, I used to help with the shout out to the hub in Mauritius.
Boom.
I used to do that. And I still do. Mr. Kumalo will attest to it. When I can and there's a space and I see talent, come, let's go. Let's go together.
Yeah.
Identify talent, nurture it, help them get somewhere. Be available sometimes, Even if even have hours. Hey, from 6 to 5, I mentor dudes.
Yeah.
Okay, what? Okay, cool. Don't expect anything back. A dude that trained me, that used to do that to me, says, like, that's one less dick I have to deal with in the industry.
That's it.
Because you've been trained properly, you've been treated properly, and you know a better way. You know a better way. And you're willing to inculcate that in other people because there's a better way. So yet kids call you up. Hey, these young kids that think there's something. Some little spark comes up to you and says, look at my little film on the thing. When I take this thing away, hey, this is the director, move him away. No, you're killing the spirit.
That's true.
Then you're surprised. Like, I mean, there was an interesting debate between me and my wife is that a lot of older white cinematographers complain about how they're not involved in the game anymore, how they've been pushed out.
Yeah.
I can attest to the fact that they were horrible to young black folks. They're people that are in power now. The people that are calling the shots now. The people that are hiring now. They were terrible to them. What did you expect? What did you expect? You, how do I remember you when you were the reason why I used to cry at night?
And you forgot.
You forgot because I was nothing to you at that time. And now you're looking at me and now it's like you're expecting me to
change,
and then you're like, oh, there's no space for the white man. We're going to England. Go to England.
Yeah. Things change.
But go there with a clear mind that you did not help the situation. Like, dude, I can tell you, me personally, I lose jobs because we need more females. Great. We need younger people. Great. It sucks, bro. I can't feed that person. Can't pay mortgages sometimes, But I have a clear understanding of why that's happening. Because without that, then we're back in the same place.
I mean, but the other side of that is, I mean, I'm personally someone who believes in abundance. I do believe, whether or not we believe the narrative that's out there, my internal, conviction is that there's enough for all of us. And just because we're bringing in new people in the space doesn't mean we have to discard that old knowledge. Otherwise, we're losing a sense of continuity. And as much as these, I mean, I've met these old white practitioners, especially on commercials, and guys are like, phew, things used to be really great, eh?
Because you were the only game in town.
That's
and
true.
the system supported you.
Yeah.
Dog, I remember a time when I was one of 3 black loaders. Nah, man, that can't be right.
No, it can't. No, it really can't. But here's a question, though. I mean, over the years, the South African film industry has significantly grown, seen some changes, in its own way, especially when it comes to quality. But for you, what transformations have you personally witnessed And how have these changes kind of impacted your approach to storytelling and directing?
That's pretty hard, man. I pretty much, I am. I mean, I think a lot more things have been accessible. I remember a friend of mine making fun of the kids that make films on cell phones in Lesotho. And I was like, wow, man. So these kids figured out that they've been carrying cameras around in their pockets all the time. More power to them. More power to them. So I love the technological advances that have come across. They've made, I mean, I'll just make it easy, bro. Both these cameras.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the maximum ISO on these? 2400, right? Back in my day, highest ISO was about 800.
Yeah.
So that means literally you can run out and shoot anything you want out there. That's great.
That's great.
You used to have to need plugs and extension cables to run stuff. Now you got a Powervo, you've charged it all night, you can shoot anywhere.
Boom.
That's great, right? Things have become wireless. So for me, the technological advances have been the best part about it.
Yeah.
They've been the best part. As audiences have grown, again, going back to my audience, they've become so super sophisticated because now they've got so much more access to so much more. So that means now I can actually tell a story and I can argue that this guy's sophisticated enough to understand because he's got access to all of that and he consumes it. So now I can actually be sophisticated in how I tell stories because now that argument about our people don't have, no, our people have Facebook Buddy.
Yeah.
And they've seen this. So slow down.
Put it down.
You know what I mean? So I don't think that there's anything, I mean, in my opinion, I'm still a puppy in this game. As a storyteller, I'm still a puppy. The film that I made me realize that I enjoy the sound of my own voice when I'm making films, as in my filmic voice. And I want to hear it so much more, so I want to make more because of that. In the same vein, I know that I'm working in a space where films are not in vogue anymore or whatever. But for me, and I'm enjoying the fact that now people can access me from anywhere and my material from anywhere in the world. And they can choose what they want. So that means I can, and which is something that's interesting. I don't see why we don't think about. That means I can make my stuff for a niche market and live.
So with that said, I mean, what are your aspirations for the African film industry, and how do you see your own contributions shaping the future?
My question is to you. How many more questions have you written out? I'm playing. I don't know what the future looks like.
Yes, sir.
To be honest, I'm in a place right now where I'm in flux and I don't know what I want, think, or whatever. I do know that I've got an overwhelming sense of hope. I do know I've got, somebody said delusional self-belief. I feel something good is coming. I feel like if we just have that delusional self-belief, we can make a lot more. And I feel like now you don't have to worry about whether everybody can hear you or not. You just have to worry about whether that guy can hear you. And I feel like because we're at that place, we can do so much more. I met a young filmmaker yesterday from Nigeria, and I mean, what a lovely dude. The way he's trying to explore filmic language is beautiful, And there's guys in Lesotho I'm going to be working with now that are trying to make a Kung Fu film in Lesotho. They're on episode 3.
Wonderful.
So they're trying to make episode 4, and I'm excited that people are thinking that way. And I'm just excited that our confines no longer feel the same. I feel like we're breaking out of the traditional structures that used to hold us back. I feel like we're breaking out of the traditional mindsets that were holding us back. So I've got a great sense of hope. As to where it's going to fall, I don't know. But I feel like good things are coming.
Yeah, and I trust your gut feeling, bro. So now we're moving on to another section of our interview. This is the game section. The team made it very easy for you because you've worked on some of these projects. It's called a rapid fire segment.
I'm enjoying it. Don't do that. Okay, go ahead.
Question number 1. On Intersections Season 1, a DJ is dying at the beginning of the show. What was the name of that DJ?
And I know who shot. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Oh.
Come on, bro. Come on now.
I know it started with DJ.
Yeah. All right.
Snap, I can't remember, man.
It's okay, man. I know, the memory does fade after a while. It's DJ Mo Freak.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, I do.
DJ Mo Freak.
Who played him again?
Sure, I forgot the name of the... Juliet will let us know. Juliet, our producer.
Stumum
Charlie.
Yes.
Yes.
It was Stumum Jazz.
Stumo, yeah.
It was after Class Act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rose post Class Act.
Yeah. Phenomenal. I just love, his approach to craft.
I've gotten a chance to meet him recently, and he is quite an incredible human.
No, he's a cool gent, man. Shout out to Stu. Shout out, brother. What year did Isibaya start?
In that, I never noticed.
Okay,
I think I dropped out. That's the point I dropped out of South African television too.
It's 2014.
Oh, great.
2014. Name 2 international actors who played the role of Nelson Mandela.
I said Daniel or Yellow on one. Right? Didn't Idris do one?
Idris also did that with Long Walk. I hope you watched that as well.
No.
Okay, because that most of the reviews had their own. Moving on to our next question. Name 3 shows Connie Ferguson has appeared in.
All right. The Queen, the Throne, Generations.
Yes, sir. Not the Throne, though. The Throne was Munye Kunupi, who played the lead actress. But Rockville, Kings of Joburg as well.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. Yeah, okay.
Okay, which South African actor voiced Rafiki in the remake of The Lion King?
You mean the real one?
Well, yeah, the digital version.
Yeah, I didn't watch that either.
Okay. It was Dr. John Kane.
Oh, no, he's great.
Yeah, no, lovely actor. What's your all-time favorite South African film and why?
Me. Stab. There's 2.
Awesome.
One is Mapanzol.
Oh yeah, man. Shout out the classic.
The other one is Portrait of a Young Man Dying by Tebo Mahlatse. That one made me.
Rest in peace to the great man.
I remember seeing it in first year varsity and I was like, I want to be that guy. I could actually say, I looked at the titles, homie had just come out of school. I'm like, I want to be that guy.
I've never seen that film, bro.
Portrait of a Young Man. And then you've got Juanina Nyakalo in it. Oh my
gosh. Please give us yeah, man, we need to know where we can access that film because, Deboho was actually the first he was a director that gave me a shot on screen as an actor.
Really?
What
role was it?
I'm telling you, it was commercial. It was 2 commercials.
Which one?
In fact, I did a Vodacom commercial and then I came back and I did a DSTV commercial. But by the time he called me for the second one, I'd already given up because I had a scholarship to study and things didn't work out. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Oh, no. He literally called my agent to say, call that young man I saw 2 years ago.
Shut up.
Come jump, so really, man, Dr. Dewoho, we thank you for the contribution. He's contributed to so many lives.
Within my personal circle is big.
Yeah, man.
Shout out, man. That's beautiful.
And a quiet gent.
I love these stories,
man, brother. All right, man. Who is your favorite director from any part of the world who's kind of influenced your style?
It's a mood thing and it's a genre thing, right? So it depends on what I need to do and what I have to think about.
Yes,
but right now, sounds trite. It's a 3-way thing. Yeah. Every single African cinema director before 1960. And that's just because these guys there was something that they were doing that really moves me. Your Sembenes, they really did something beautiful for me, man. I mean, the first time I watched Hyenas, I was still screwed up. Then I watched the writings. Jebro Mambeti was like, he changed me. I remember watching like the Battle for Algiers, and I mean that, you know, like the cinematography there changed me. So there's that. But then for the most part lately, in terms of storytelling, it's Hirozaki Kurita and Kim Ki-duk. Okay. So one is a Korean dude, one is a Japanese dude. And again, it's just, they lean more into the kind of filmmaking where I want to be, where it's character driven, where like it's human stories, where like you really get to ask the actor to push himself and perform.
That's it.
And for me, those are really beautiful. And I aspire. I mean, I'm even taking acting classes because I aspire to be able to speak acting properly again. I feel like I'm not very, but I think that's my own personal thing because, you know, going on this new journey, I also realized that I forgot how to be a student of the craft. I love the craft so much, but we get so jaded that we forget that you constantly have to be a student of the craft, constantly want to master it and be amazing, because without that, in those dark times, what was it all about?
That's true, man. That's true. And I kind of feel like the current format, and no shade on telenovelas, but the current format, you know, it's so, you know, kind of, what do you call this? Thematic?
Cookie cutter.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That the audience doesn't realize it, but I can tell you from the craftsman's point of view, it takes a lot away, you know, from the great work, like from the actual craft, you know, because it's 3 cameras and boom, boom, bam, and then you're out. And also the directors in that space tend to become technical as time goes on. When you're younger, you know, you're all about really working out those nuances from a character point of view. So I want to commend you for taking those actor classes and going back to the real, you know, nitty gritty, the real juice of it all, which is, you know, the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like character bios when you read lately are like this short. Yeah. They don't go into the belly of the thing. So. And yeah, man. I mean, it's I don't know if you saw. I carry a camera as well because I want to take more photos, because I want to hold my eye back to where it was, because I really, really desperately want to master my craft, and not because I'm going to make great films, but it's a personal thing to be a master of the craft that I chose to be in.
Wonderful, man. PJ, brother, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a very inspirational episode for me personally. You know, here's a man who's climbing the ladder, and as he's going higher, he's remembering his inner child. He's in a you know, joy and reason for doing this. And as you go more internal, as your why becomes bigger, you know, we're seeing bigger and better things from you, man. And I know you're not chasing that hit, but something tells me you'll be shaking up the culture. So, bro, thank you so much, King, and thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you for the time, man.
Yes, brother.
Thank you.
I mean, but before we go, brother, just if you could just let us know what are you currently working on and where we can find you.
Well, you can find me at my record store.
Boom.
I sell records in my past time. We've got a little record store called the Collectors Collective.
Lovely.
Out in Albertsville. Come through, come get a record.
As in vinyls?
Yeah.
What? Bro, we are definitely coming.
No, I'm a collector, and I really like the idea of curating music for other people as well, so that's been great. That's where you find me more when I'm not working. And then if right now we're working on a Kung Fu film. Yeah, like there's a film, if you go onto the internet, look for Mutlalentwa. We're probably going to be working with those guys for episode 5. We've hooked up with the wonderful man called Black Fox from Durban. I don't know if you ever seen him. Look out for Black Fox in Durban.
Shout out.
So that's going to be, because now I'm starting to talk about my inner passions. I don't know if anybody ever remember 60mm films, paying 10 cents at the town hall, and then like watching Bruce Lee, and then coming out and going here with your friends. That's what I want to go and live right now.
Yeah, man.
And that's my next thing.
So exciting. Well, we'll be with you, man. Any social media handles you want to, let the people, if you want people to follow you?
Collectors on Albert, come through and buy that. And my Instagram handle is Ntatuma Lume Thirst Trap on Instagram.
Mr. Sexy. You know how it is, man. You know how it is, bro. Well, yeah, man. Guys, we would like to thank Fortune Well, the Magic Lightbox Company, as well as the Dynamic Workspace for sponsoring this episode. Thank you so much. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel.